Hey everyone, and welcome to the Wrap Up Live. This is the official Raptors Republic live post-game show and podcast where we recap, dissect, and have some fun talking about the latest Raptors game you just watched. I'm your host, Sahal Abdi, here with our co-host, Keon Haddad. This live show is produced by none other than our man, Keon. Tonight, your Toronto Raptors defeated the OKC Thunder 128-111, bringing the Raptors record to only 2 games now below 500. 34 wins, 36 losses on the NBA season. And they are now 11-6 in their last 17 regular season games. They look pretty good. I mean, this is a Raptors team that has been improving. Most people will point to Jakob Poeltl as kind of the shift to a more balanced team, which I would fully agree with. Does Jakob get all of the praise? Absolutely not, because we have seen great games from OG Anunoby. Pascal Siakam looked like he got back on track tonight. We have seen great games from Scotty Barnes. I feel like everybody. Gary Trent Jr. has been struggling a little bit in the last week or so, couple weeks, I want to say, and he looked like he is back on track as well. And last but not least, guys, if you love the Toronto Raptors, before I get into the game, do us hardworking individuals at Raptors Republic a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can search Raptors Republic and subscribe to our podcast channel, The Rapcast, wherever you're watching or listening. All right, Keon, let's get into the game. Another win for your Toronto Raptors, right? We got the score, 128-111. OKC Thunder came home. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander came home quite literally. And that was the storyline, of course, whenever we go up against the OKC Thunder. One of the most beloved players, I believe, and a consensus among Raptors fans is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Of course, him being Canadian, him growing up locally, him, of course, having to grow up a Raptors fan. I don't know if he would ever admit it at this point in his career. Maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. And yes, to any OKC fans still watching or, we always get some rival fans, some sort of opposing fans into this post-game show. For any of you watching, yes, every single Raptors fan is still holding out hope for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander becoming an inevitable Raptor at some point in his career, whether he is 35 years old, whether it is at the end of his current contract. We, and I think I speak for most of us when I say we are Shai Gilgeous-Alexander fans. Now that all the lovey-dovey stuff is out of the way, Keon, when do you ever see every single Toronto Raptors starter in double figures? What did you like most from this game? And honestly, you could really, at this point after a game like this, pick anything, because I feel like most of the guys had great games, at least the starters, and the bench didn't do too bad as well. What did you think?
Yeah, out of all the players tonight, the one that stood out of the starters who I was looking to see was Pascal, because he's obviously been on a little bit of a rough patch, and everybody else kind of carried over their success from Tuesday night against Denver. Well, I almost forgot who they played, Denver. But Pascal, he looked great from the jump. He was aggressive. He was attacking the rim. He shot 8 free throws today, only made half of them, but it's encouraging to see him get to the line. He had 25 points. He was in that fourth quarter. He was really like dicing the OKC defense apart, just like finding open shooters. He found Will Barton in the corner for a pretty. It was like in the post, and he just double comes. As soon as the double comes, he swings it to Will Barton in the corner, and he knocks down the three all night. And he just seemed in command, and that's something that's super important, because he was not good in the last maybe like 2 weeks. And usually when he goes to California, he becomes even better in his career. We've always seen that, and this time he kind of went into a shell. So it's super important for me to see that Pascal can get past this dry spell a little bit, get past this low point of the season for him, and continue to build up into an upward trajectory.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is something that we had to bring up early on this show, because Pascal Siakam, let's be totally honest, right? The Raptors look like they're making a run into the playoffs, playing whatever you want to call it, right? Depending on how optimistic you are as a fan. The Raptors look like they're making, a little bit of a run, right? And let's be 100% truthful and transparent, Keon. The Raptors, there's almost no point of them making this run into the playoffs if they can't get Pascal Siakam going into that play-in or playoffs with momentum, right? If you get into that postseason and you have Pascal Siakam completely flame out, this team stands absolutely no chance. I mean, it's almost like uh, again, all odds are already stacked upon this team, right? You're not coming into the hypothetically, of course. I don't want to get too optimistic. People are going to say, you know what, Raptors aren't in the playoffs yet. Why are you guys talking like you're in the playoffs? Um, Hypothetically, if the Raptors do get into the postseason, Keon, you're not coming in like we have in previous years as the 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed, whatever you want to say, right? 5 seed. There's no home court advantage, right? Some Raptors fans didn't like the fact that on previous shows I mentioned how Boston, Philly, and who's the other top Eastern Conference team I'm forgetting, Milwaukee Bucks, would bounce us pretty convincingly out of the playoffs. Like I said, we have to be totally honest with this Raptors team, right? This is a team that is going to lose some tough games. They're going to win some really good games. They're going to look competitive against the best teams in the league, right? We've seen everything, right, across the spectrum with this team, right? The OKC Thunder are not the OKC Thunder of old. Like, if anyone's been paying attention to this Oklahoma City team, this is a team that's been incredibly, and when I say incredibly, I really mean incredibly competitive this season. Funny fact, Keon, the Lakers fans in their Reddit, which is like something that I check maybe once, I want to say every couple months, because it's a great source of comedy. Lakers fans are currently losing their minds at the fact that OKC is so damn competitive this season. They're wondering why, because going into the season, everyone expected a jump from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He gave you that jump, right? But nobody expected the rest of the supporting cast to really just hone in like they have this season. Jalen Williams looks incredible. Isaiah Joe, who they picked up off the Philadelphia 76ers scrap heap. I mean, what? Doc Rivers, I don't know. I don't have any answers for him anymore, right? In terms of his decision making, his roster decision making. This is a really good team. The Raptors, handily beat a very good basketball team tonight in the OKC Thunder. So it's not a bottom tier, bottom feeder Western Conference team or NBA team. This is a team that's beaten the Milwaukee Bucks, right? They've beaten some top tier teams in the league, and the Raptors. It's I tweeted this at the end of the night that it's incredibly encouraging to finally see the Raptors, win a game late with conviction. Because every game, Keon, at the end, we're all, like I say, we're all holding our breath. We're waiting for the Raptors to just give away that lead. And a lot of times they do. And I think with this game and the last Denver game, it finally feels like the Raptors are starting to learn how to win the fourth quarter. And they're learning the right way. The ball was shared tonight. It was great. Beyond Pascal Siakam getting back on track, right? 25 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists. A fantastic game all around from Pascal. And that's with him missing 4 free throws, by the way. He was 4 for 8 from the free throw line, right? Which is not the usual case for Pascal Siakam. Beyond that, was there anything you liked specifically? Could be a player, could be a specific play that comes to mind. Is there anything that you really liked? It could just be about a specific player, a general take on a specific player. Is there anything else that this kind of game brought to you?
I'd have to build off the fourth quarter point because obviously we've seen it throughout the season where the Raptors just fall apart in the fourth quarter, and it's really just encouraging to see that back-to-back games the Raptors have really honed in the fourth quarter and locked in almost every possession, and they're playing aggressive, tough defense. And if I'm going to talk about a specific player, Poeltl came in a little earlier than usual. Like I think Koloko had like 7 first half minutes in a stint, and Koloko in the second half stint, he got elbowed in the face by Jalen Williams, which somehow they didn't review, but that's for later. They didn't review that play. He's out for the game. And Poeltl, I originally thought that it was going to be Precious coming in because he didn't play at all, and I thought they were going to give Precious a few minutes here to see if he can you use some motivation from sitting the whole game. But instead, they just went to Poeltl early, and in that fourth quarter, he looked pretty dominant out there. He shot like I think 8 free throws in the fourth quarter alone, and he made 6 of them, which is not what we're used to. And he was hitting free
Yeah.
throws, and he was super aggressive on the offensive glass, and he had 12 rebounds total. Him in the fourth quarter, and just his rim protection as well. He only had 1 block, but that fourth quarter, like you could tell that the OKC Thunder were driving in and just not even willing to take a shot in the paint
Hmm.
because of Jakob Poeltl in there, and that's just something we've been missing all season, and that just contributes to the point of how important bringing in a true big man was. Because now when you
Yeah.
have a real rim protector like Poeltl, who just deteriorates shots, like numerous one that comes to my head is Lou Dort driving in. He dribbles
Yeah.
right back out. Like
Yeah.
he normally Lou Dort is super aggressive in the paint,
And that's that
and
you don't see that in the box score either, right? Like those
exactly
are
like
those are the little impact plays that matter, I think.
it's gonna come up as 1 block, but I thought he played spectacular today, and he like 5 offensive
Yeah.
rebounds, which and a lot of those were in the fourth quarter, and that's just the type of effort you need. And Scotty was great in the fourth quarter as well as he always is. But that's the main takeaway I have, and the real nice part of this win for the Raptors.
Yeah, whenever you can see the Raptors starters or really just their bench get emptied out onto the floor at the end of a game, which is something that Nick Nurse really, really hesitates to do. We know
Mm-hmm.
this as people who have been watching the Raptors for quite some time. Nick Nurse usually waits till the last moment to get Malachi Flynn and the whole gang in there. Whenever a game can end like that, you know the Raptors are usually in good hands. Sometimes it can happen the other way, right? Where the Raptors are getting blown out and then the bench has to come on. But this is, in my opinion, I think one of the better wins this season, simply because you're building off of a very good win versus Denver. And like I mentioned earlier, OKC, a very underrated team. The Raptors, as much as I want to point out the fact that they shot 49% as a team, right, which is great. You shoot 43.8, essentially 44% from three, which I get for the Raptors is incredible, right? This is a team that I'd have to look it up, but I think 3-point percentage, they are currently ranked 28th in the NBA. They sit at 33.8% is what they shoot as a team from beyond the arc this season, 28. So that's 28th out of 30. That's third last in the league. They shot 44% tonight. So you can't fault them on that at all, right? But what you can say is this becomes an even better Raptors win when they shot 20 for 28 from the free throw line, right? You missed 8 gimmies tonight. They shot 71%. A lot of times, Keon, I felt like the OKC Thunder, once they got desperate, they were trying to move to that yak attack. I said hack attack, yak attack, fouling yak over and over again underneath the net, and that's one thing I think
Hakayak?
that Hakayak. What am I saying? Am I saying yak attack? What am I on right
Yeah.
now? I think I watched too many. I think I watched too many March Madness games tonight. Too many upsets I watched. Hack a yak. Okay, let me say that one more time. Hack a
Yeah.
yak. Right. They got desperate. They tried it, and we've seen Jakob Poeltl. He's been struggling generally with his free throw this season, but he's been trying. Like, this is something that you cannot fault the guy. The effort has been there. He's been trying to improve at it, and tonight, he was 8 for 10. So this isn't the night that I'm going to get on Jakob Poeltl. But again, as a team, being 20 for 28, shooting only 71% from the free throw line, still winning that game, right, is a big plus, I think, for the Raptors. They out rebounded OKC 58 to 39 in this game, +7 on the offensive glass, right, +12, I believe, if my math is correct, on the defensive glass. And again, this is something that you should do, right? This is something you should do versus the OKC Thunder, Keon. This is a small team, right? And we mentioned in the last show that Christian Koloko possibly didn't get those minutes. And Nick Nurse relied a lot more on Jakob Poeltl because of the fact that, do you want Christian Koloko to play in Mississauga for a couple months and his first NBA, reappearance? I won't call it his first NBA appearance, but his first reappearance back into the NBA is against Nikola Jokic, right? back-to-back MVP. Like, that's not the type of confidence booster you would probably want for your rookie, right? So we both mentioned how it would be likely that we would see Christian Coloco play against OKC. He did. He didn't play much, right? It was a little stint, right? He played 12 minutes, but if he's going to give you 12 productive minutes, which is what I felt he did in this game,
I agree.
I already know, Keon, by the way, we're going to see someone in Raptors media mention the fact that, there's either going to be clips cut up for Christian Coloco where he just, I think it was like back-to-back possessions. He contested the ball underneath the net. And then on offense, I got to read my tweet again. On offense, I wrote it. I tweeted it earlier. On offense, he did something incredibly well. And then back on defense, he got a block, right? So there's so many positives in this game. And if Christian Coloco can give you those backup 5 minutes, those productive backup 5 minutes when Precious Achiuwa just isn't giving you that, right?
No.
That's a massive, massive plus for Nick Nurse, because you start to think, okay, maybe this whole Precious at the backup 5 experiment was a big mistake, right? Maybe Precious is more suited to play a backup 4, right? And maybe we should throw in Christian Coloco for roughly 10 minutes a game, nothing too serious, nothing close to the 15, 20 minutes he was getting earlier in the season. Maybe that would be, the most positive aspect that comes out of it as you're reaching towards the postseason, right? People are bringing up some great points in the live chat. Phoenix, a little harsh, right, on his statement. He says the reason Nick Nurse played Coloco is because Precious and Thad stink at the backup 5. A little harsh. I'd like to say struggle at the backup 5, but sure. I mean, you have a way with words, Phoenix. We know you. Chris Willis mentioned, look at how balanced the minutes played are. And that's 100% the truth. You go from the top to the bottom. Scotty Barnes had 35. Fred and Pascal had 34, right? Which is a good start. Normally those guys are at the 38, 39, 40 mark. OG with only 29 minutes did not eclipse 30 minutes. Jakob Poeltl, 29 minutes, right? Chris Boucher, 16. Coloco, 12. Will Barton, 11. This, I mean, it looks nice. It looks nice, Keon. Is there anything else, Keon, that you wanted to mention that was a positive? I feel like there were so many different things, and I feel like we touched on a lot of them, but there could be some more, right?
Yeah, it's exciting to see that we're not running our players into the ground. And we did talk last show about Poeltl's minutes and his kind of role in the rotation as it stands. And he's still in that same range, but it's better to see that he's playing 29 minutes, but you could tell that it was like 29 minutes they needed him. Like they didn't wait to sub him back in that fourth quarter, and that was huge. Like he played around the same minutes as the other starters. Like he played the same as Anunoby, and Scotty was just at 35 because he stayed in for those garbage time minutes when everyone else got subbed out. But someone I do want to bring up was Will Barton, and it's gonna look on the stat sheet like he shot 1 for 6, but it's a different type of feeling when you can bring in a guard type player off the bench and him not just look out of place out there. And tonight, like, I'm not upset at one of the shots he took. Like he took open shots and he took shots that were within the flow of the offense and within his role. And you obviously want to see him knock a few down, and I'm not worried about that because this is a guy who has a track record in his career of knocking down threes and scoring the basketball. And he's been a little pleasant surprise. I didn't think he'd be as good defensively as he has been. I'm not saying he's been amazing, but it's always a nice plus when he can get down and play some good defense, especially off the bench. Because we've seen Nick Nurse, he either has to bring in a fully offensive point guard in Malachi Flynn, or he brings in Jeff Dowtin, and you're only going to get one and not the other. And Will Barton just 11 minutes, he comes in, goes out, and just plays his role. And I thought he was great tonight, and it's just the type of player that the Raptors needed. And Phoenix
Yeah,
really wanted some Will Barton talk, so I had to give it to him.
100%. Phoenix. We mention him on almost every single show. We got to give the crowd what they love, and Will Barton for sure. Yeah, absolutely, I'm with you. He's a guy that you start to think as a Raptors fan, finally this team has a backup guard that they can trust, and there's a sense, Keon, of it's almost like there's a sense of like a high basketball IQ. Will Barton's seen so much in his NBA career so far, right? He's not a dinosaur. We're not talking about a 38-year-old, 36-year-old guard. Like I believe he's 31, 32, something around there. But he's seen a
Yeah.
lot, right? He's been in deep postseason runs. He's made the postseason often with Denver.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And clearly, in my opinion, you watch him relative to one of the younger guards that the Raptors would bring on, whether that's Delton or Malachi Flynn. It's almost like a toss-up, right? It's almost like you're playing Russian roulette when you bring in Delton or Flynn, because generally you don't know what you're going to get, right? If you get something positive, sure. I mean, I'll take it, no problem, right? But you don't know, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not a shot at Malachi. That's not a shot at Jeff Downs. Those guys are still very young NBA players who I think are NBA level players. But it's different when you have a guy like Will Barton who used to spell. He's used to spelling guys like Jamal Murray in Denver quite often, right? Combo guard. He'll play the 3 if you need him to. He'll play the 2, and he'll play the 1 if you need him to. Phoenix says, I feel like Barton's floor is way more stable. And he's
That's a
obviously
great point.
he's referring to Malachi Flynn, I believe. Which is great. And I agree. And I totally agree. Weirdly enough, OKC Thunder sit at 34 wins and 36 losses now, just like the Toronto Raptors do with OKC's loss and Toronto's win. And again, despite all the tanking jokes and all the fun that was poked at OKC and their fans before the season began, people don't remember this. They lost their second overall pick, Chet Holmgren, who was absolutely dominating the NBA Summer League at one point. They lost him to a season-ending injury before his season even began, and they're the 9th seed now. So, I mean, I'm not saying Chet's gonna make you a 5th seed. I'm not saying he's gonna make you even a 6th seed or a 7th. But the team would be much better. Chet looked like a very good basketball player, from what I saw. Right. So you got to give credit to where credit is due. Where else do we got? We didn't speak really much about OG Anunoby, who I feel like, again, another super efficient night from OG. 17 points, 4 rebounds, couple steals, couple blocks, a few or maybe a couple phantom calls. I don't know. It's tough with OG because we're so used to him playing such, honest and high level defense that when there's a foul called on him, you're just like, oh, let me take a second look at that. And there was one that Alvin Williams was like, yeah, that's 100% a foul. It was where Shea pump faked.
Yeah.
Alvin said OG left his feet. I looked at the replay. I mean, if you're going to consider that leaving your feet, sure. I mean, he more or less lunged into him, not very aggressively, but I guess, yeah, it's a superstar call. Shea's going to get it. I mean, it is what it is. Phoenix, I said it. He said they were phantom calls, Sahal. Stand by it. And I am, right? They were. I thought they were. And I'm just totally honest about that. Speaking of the calls, Keon, there was a very particular referee who was in this game tonight. Do you want to,
Mr.
enlighten all
Taylor.
Raptors fans to get a watch to this game tonight?
Mr. Ben Taylor was back
Yeah, Fred
refereeing the
VanVleet's
Raptors
best man.
game. And I was kind
Yeah.
of looking at it a little bit, and it felt like Freddie was just trying to avoid him. Like I was
Mhm.
watching him, like he complained a little bit, and then as soon as he saw who the official was, it felt like he would just walk away. Like he didn't want to talk to him. He didn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
It was a fun little story going into this one. I thought it was funny. I mean, at the start, the Raptors were kind of getting some calls like early and throughout the whole game. There were a couple light calls, but there's not much to read into it. It was just like nothing was. I wasn't really expecting anything to boil over that game, like some people on Twitter that I saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. Keon, did you like Nick Nurse's strategy of primarily putting Fred on Shea? A lot of people just naturally expect OG Anunoby to be thrown on the opposing best offensive player. Were you a fan of Fred, all over Shea, or would you have preferred to see more OG matchups? What they were doing with OG, which I found interesting, was instead of putting him on Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, they were throwing him on what seemed to be OKC's worst offensive player, which was a rotation, a cast of different players, with OG spending almost 30 minutes on the court. Were you a fan of that? And if you're not, I mean, what would you do differently? Let me know.
Obviously, like OG, if we want him to develop into the type of defensive player of the year caliber player he can be, so I'd like to see him take on those. Obviously, I'd like Nick Nurse to let him take on that matchup from tip to the final whistle. I will say this though, it wasn't just Fred guarding him. It felt like every possession Shea had to fight, especially
He
early
was
on, had
fighting
to
for his
fight to
life.
get. Yeah, you had to fight to get to like half court even because there was just two guys on him coming off the screen. He'd get blitzed, and he still dropped 29, which just attests to his just talent. He's so good out there. It just feels like every time he shoots it, it's just gonna swish in. Like he just like after that first quarter, it kind of felt like they were speeding him up, which is not something we're used to seeing because he just always plays at his own pace. But
Yeah.
after that first quarter, he started to really just go back to that flow where he just has control of the game sometimes, and like you can do whatever you can. If OG was on him, like OG would play tougher defense, make him work a little bit more. But like I like OG Roman because he has such good ball instincts. Like if you put him on the worst player, we see the Bucks do this with Giannis, where they won't like he's a defensive player of the year player, and he won that not by guarding the best player, but he won it by being a roaming defender in the paint and in passing lanes, just super athletic, one of the best help defenders in the league. And I'm not saying OG is Giannis level defensively. He's close, but he's not there. But I like the different strategies because you also can't just throw the same thing at Shea. Like you have to switch up the looks you're giving him. And I mean, if like I'm fine with what Nick Nurse did. I thought whatever you did, Shea was still going to do his thing because he's just been that dominant all season. So I'm fine. I'm fine with that. And Freddie held his own, and Freddie has great ball skills. He stripped Shea a couple times tonight. When he was getting to his spot, and just multiple guys, and he swiped down on him. We usually see him do that with the big men, but he did that on Shea tonight, and it worked sometimes, but you can't really do anything. And I'm not upset at Nick Nurse for what he did.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an important point I think you made with OG, because a lot of times we see him guarding these big, hefty guys, whether it's Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic. It could even be, a Kawhi Leonard we saw, I think, a week or two ago. You get tired, right? You get tired guarding the best offensive players in the league. And for OG, you almost start to feel sympathy for him because I mentioned this on the last show. When his shot's not falling, it's almost because that the fatigue level is there, right? He's exhausted of guarding these guys, possession after possession after possession. And yes, he makes an incredible impact. OG is undeniably one of the best defensive players in the world. Undeniably, right? There's no debate about that. I think there wasn't a debate about that, I think, before the season began, but I think it's become even more clear this season. It was fun to watch him in a new role where, like you said, he was doing more roaming than a lot of point of attack stuff, which was cool to see. But yeah, I love it because in this role, again, it allows him to put that much more into his offense. And we saw a hyper efficient night from him. 17 points, 6 for 9, right? Did everything you wanted, hit the corner three when he had it, attacked the rim, kicked it out when he didn't have it, which was great to see as well. Made some big plays. Like you saw the block there on Jalen Williams. By the way, OKC Thunder have 2 Jalen Williams. I'm a fan of both. I'm more of a fan of Jalen, who participated in, I believe, do they still call it the rookie sophomore game? No, they call it, I guess,
Rising
I don't know,
Stars.
Rising Stars. Participated in
They
that. Looked
did.
good
There's
in
a
that.
difference, actually. Did you hear Alvin? One's J Dub and one's J Will.
Oh yeah. So
They have.
all I know is one is spelled Jalen, and the other one's
Mhm.
Jaylin. That's the only difference that I kind of found out today, which is cool. And I know OKC fans are big fans of both players. But for Jalen, right, who played, I think, 29 minutes in this game, he looked good. And I'm a big fan of him. I love, part of the reason why I think it's so much fun watching these basketball games, watching the Raptors go up against a different opponent every night, Keon, is that you get to almost fall in love with players that you don't get to watch every night, right? You watch
Especially in
guys,
the
and
West.
yeah, it's incredible. The young talent on OKC is a lot of fun, which is why I was really looking forward to watching this game. Super fun game to
Mhm.
watch. I'm trying to find out. There's one thing I wanted to bring up before we moved on. Let's see. Oh, John Schumann I
Mm.
believe he still writes for NBA.com. He posted a video, and it sucks because I went to the I was in the washroom when this clip happened during the Raptors OKC game.
Mhm.
He posted a clip of one of the best passes I've seen all season, and unfortunately didn't come from a Toronto Raptor. It came from Josh Giddey. It was a behind the back. I don't know if you could find it, Keon, in the time that we have.
Okay. Let
I
me see.
can give you. I think his name is something along those lines. But what a play! We don't really give plays of it. Like we don't really do play of the game on Wrap Up Live. We do show you, of course, some clips here and there of some of the players that we're discussing. But my oh my, this was a play I have to highlight. I have to.
I found it.
Incredible pass. I think Keon got it. I just wanted some of the live watchers to see it if you missed it. I think some of them already know what I'm talking about. Let's pull it up really quick. Oh
That's
my
the
gosh.
end
Can
of
we
it.
start?
It's
Let
the
me
end of it,
start
I
that from
guess.
the beginning. So starts in Josh Giddey's hands, takes the nice screen from Jalen Williams.
That was pretty gross. That is what he sees, right? That is what he sees right here. And he somehow that's great. He anticipates that pass before he's even in the
Oh,
paint. That's crazy.
it's one thing to have the cojones to make that pass. There's so many things that have to go right to make a pass like this. The pace you put on the ball, obviously the accuracy of the ball. You have to time the run that the player is making. Yeah, got to give it to Josh Giddey. What a player.
I miss this
OKC
one
has a
too.
lot of good young pieces, man.
This was right at the start of the third quarter. I miss this too. I didn't even I've not seen this clip until just now. That is ridiculous.
Ooh, my
And
oh my.
if you played again, was not this angle. I want to see it from the full angle. I feel bad for all our podcast listeners, but right here, he could have
Yeah, they're
easily
probably like,
made
what are
that
you guys
play
watching?
to other
Oh
Jalen
man.
Williams. I'm sure that's what everyone thought he was going to make that pass to, and
Mm-hmm.
he just that's just great. That's great. If you want the clip, if you're listening to the podcast, John Schumann on Twitter has it. Um, that was great. That was pretty cool. And we don't really
Fantastic.
highlight other teams like best plays, but you got to respect basketball and then just great players.
100%. I'm with you. Can-Am Tax, player of the night. For all of our listeners, whether you're listening to this on the podcast the next day or watching live, canamtax.com is your best resource for filing your taxes. Even if you have tax questions, concerns, your first time filing taxes, it's your 115th time filing taxes, and you're a dinosaur watching this. You visit canamtax.com for that, or you can call 416-243-2912. That's 416-243-2912. They're at the top right of the screen for all of our live watchers. Obviously, we appreciate them for supporting the show. Keon, we have this great chemistry on this show where now I'm just so I have so much conviction in your Taxman selections because we always tend
Mm.
to agree that I'm just going to give it to you. This is all you right now. Who is your Can-Am Taxman of the night?
So usually we like to not give it to Pascal because
Yeah.
at the start of the season and in last season, if we were truly picking the taxman player of the game, it would be Pascal every game. But the last
Yeah.
few games, last couple weeks, it's been rough for Pascal, right? He's been struggling to get to the rim. He's been
Mhm.
settling for jump shots, not the Pascal we're used to seeing. Therefore, tonight, when he actually decides to bounce back and hopefully go on that upward trajectory and use this as a build-up game and a momentum game to
Yeah.
continue this to end the season to the play. And we're going to give it to Pascal Siakam tonight. And I
100%.
you agree.
I love it. Now all we need is like a little soundboard of like a round of applause. Yes. Yeah, 100%. We said in the beginning of the season, myself, Aiden, Oren, and Keon, we said, and we came to an agreement that this would be known as the non-Pascal Siakam Award. But I mean, Keon, I'm with you. There's considering all the circumstances, everything that's happened, the struggles that he's had, he's been getting it from fans, right? And some of it has been deserving. Some of it, of course, with fans gets a little too much. But yeah, it seems like our live chat agrees as well. Bounce back game, Phoenix says. Nesta says Pascal deserves it tonight. Bounce back game and 0 turnovers. We didn't even mention that. 0 turnovers
I didn't
for
even know
Pascal
that.
Siakam. Yeah, incredible. Just a great all-around performance from him. 14 rebounds, 8 assists as well.
And I will say
Everything you
this
want to see in your star.
about him. There was something I saw an article or Pascal getting interviewed, and they were talking about his rough stretch, and he said something along the lines of I live for these type of moments. Like I find pleasure in getting in these rough patches and trying to find ways to get out of it and learning new things I can do to try to get out of these rough patches. And as soon as I heard that, that kind of gave me a lot of confidence that this guy, like, he's not going to get rattled by this. And Alvin mentioned on the broadcast tonight that like players hit rough patches, like it happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the ups and downs of an 82 game season, and that he was in a little bit of a rough patch. It wasn't something I was going to go crazy about, but this was just a huge game for hopefully his confidence. Hopefully he found something that like he can use and work to for the future in the next few games, because now it's all go. It's full steam ahead. You got to start winning games you have to win against OKC. Yeah, and he came out on top, and he led it from the jump, just absolutely just aggression from the start, and that's what we needed from him, because it just seemed like a lack of aggression, a lack of energy from him. And from the start, he was just going right at the OKC Thunder in the paint. I just played that clip of that beautiful spin Euro step move that we're so accustomed to seeing. So it's just
Love
great to
it.
see.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everyone who visits RaptorsRepublic.com often, I want to highlight something that we saw on the game preview as well, which was written by Makai Bruce, who's one of our great writers at Raptors Republic. And I love this because he wrote in the preview, the $1 million question for tonight, though, will be what version of Pascal Siakam do we get tonight? He's been in a slump for quite some time now, and while he still has been impacting the game by drawing attention to opening up his teammates, he hasn't been able to score in a way that reflects his early season self in quite some time. So we have to watch out for that. That was written in our game preview, and we are now talking to you after the game, where Pascal Siakam dropped 25 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists on pretty damn good efficiency. And like the live watchers and listeners mentioned, 0 turnovers as well. Pascal
Those game
Siakam is your
previews are great.
Can-Am. Yeah, absolutely. He's your Can-Am tax man of the night. I think that's going to do it for us tonight. We've been on for almost 40 minutes. We appreciate every single one of you for watching, listening the next day. This is another great win from your Toronto Raptors. But before you guys leave us tonight, we need you to subscribe to the Raptors Republic YouTube, as well as our podcast channel, The Rapcast. This was the wrap up, your official Raptors Republic post-game live show, where tonight your Raptors defeated the OKC Thunder 128-111, bringing the Raptors record to 2 games below 500, 34 wins, 36 losses, Like I mentioned earlier, your Raptors in their last 17 games are 11-6, 11 wins, 6 losses. The live show was produced by our co-host Kian Haddad. That was it for myself, Sahal Abdi. We'll see you guys all on, what do we got? Is it Saturday night?
I
It looks
believe
like
so.
Saturday night.
I
And it's the
don't remember
Minnesota
who we're playing.
Timberwolves.
We remember that first game. Before the first game against Minnesota when Sahal and Oren ruled the season over. They said it was over. That first game against Minnesota. So
don't
let's
bring
hope
it
for
back,
better
man.
this time.
Yeah, exactly. A big Toronto sports day on Saturday night, might I add. You got the Raptors and the Timberwolves at 7 p.m. You got the Toronto FC, Inter Miami at 7:30 p.m. And earlier than that, at 1 p.m., you got the Yankees and Blue Jays. Action-packed day for Toronto sports. We'll see you guys all on Saturday night. Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. We loved having each and every one of you spend time with us. Enjoy the win. We'll all see you next time on Wrap Up Live. Take care.